Welcome back to our show, your show, Let's Talk Stocks. And guess who's joining us again in studio this morning? Of course, it's Shanoy Coombs. She has so much more to teach us about marketing and communications, development marketing even. Let's continue the conversation. Welcome back, Shanoy. Are businesses aware of some of these things that you just spoke to? We like to go for the persons with experience, and it's important to have experience. But you're talking about the importance of culture and the different aspects. And by culture, it could mean you're saying the Gen Z versus somebody my age.
I would ask.
You know, and how important it is to get all ideas to contend and come to that climax that is going to lead us forward successfully. Are businesses really taking these things seriously?
They should. I mean, there's literally no other way. If you think about it over the last decade, our lives have changed so much.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you really think about just even how technology has advanced, I remember when I studied my program, social marketing, when I that's what I did at media school, which is really behavior change marketing. When I say social marketing to people now, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't connect because all they think is social media marketing, which is very different. But I would say for any organization, from a longevity purpose, from a scaling purpose, from a pivoting purpose, you have to adapt. You have to be incorporating the views of the younger people that are coming in. You have to be also pulling from the wisdom of the older persons as well.
I like that word. It's actually a new word that's suddenly become a big buzzword.
In the post-COVID era.
Exactly. So it came out of the new normal and being able to pivot.
Yes.
How important is that to businesses for continuity and survival in this new age? Of new normal.
Yes, and I'm happy you asked that because, you know, based on the time span of my company entering the sixth year, we would have also been within the COVID belt. And an interesting thing happened because a part of 2020, I was locked into the UK and I had a business in Jamaica and the show had to go on. And so, you know, of course, this is where research came in and we had to be utilizing a lot more technologies for us. But pivoting is essential. I mean, even for me as a marketing communications entity, I'm constantly looking, what is the new thing that we need to be taking advantage of? Everybody's talking about AI. How can we use AI to our advantage instead of seeing it as competition? What are the tasks that I can routinize with AI platforms and stuff? And I've seen even in my own business in terms of just having task management systems. I can cut the time a supervisory role would have because it's almost like clockwork. Everyone is logging their tasks. It's being closed off in real time. I can now see on average how much each person is taking in terms of those time frames. And as such, I can then reassign someone's task load to say, well, you don't need to manage who is doing what because they are logging it and I'm able to see if they are logging it and stuff. So pivoting is essential, and a huge part of pivoting is the research that comes into that. And being a big thing I have been researching a lot is experiential marketing, and it's a lot about the full experience someone gets when they come into a space. You know, for a long time you come to a space and you see a nice backdrop and you take a photo, but what is the thing that's going to stand out? We did a gender-based violence campaign for a client and we created a tunnel, and we called it the Tunnel of Misconception. And we plopped it in the middle of Emancipation Park for all and sundry. It was just, it's free and open to all. And the point is that when you went into this tunnel, you were hearing voices of people who had faced any form of violence. You had imagery showcasing different age groups of people who had been, you know, affected in some way. And all of that came together to create such an experience that when persons came out of the tunnel, they said, I literally felt like I was walking in someone's shoes. So just to say that from a pivoting perspective, it's because we're researching, it's because we're seeing what is new out there, what is different, what is able to connect with people with shorter time spans, people.
Yes.
And so it is essential for every single industry. I mean, I'm entering my 6th year, and I will continue have to pivot to get to my 10th and beyond.
Interesting. As I look at what you've been able to do with this business, and we're talking about pivoting, you're in just the 6th year, and you make 6 years, but you're able to connect with some markets and with businesses and organizations that people in business 50 years have not been able to do. How important is networking in facilitating some of the moves that you've been able to make?
Yes, it is super, super important. I can't tell you this much. And I say this as somebody who, when I tell people I used to be shy, they'll say that's not so.
I wouldn't believe either.
Yes, but it's something I've had to work through, but I was. But also outside of being shy, there was this part of me when I started my business journey that felt like, I don't need to be at the forefront of everything. I kept saying, I want to be in the background, I want to this, and I would quote well-known people and I say, oh, you don't see William Mahfood on all the posters for Wisinko, for example. And I would say, oh, you don't see. And then the more I said it, I stopped. I said, no, when you think of sandals, you're always seeing Adam. When you think of Wisinko, that's how you know Mahfood, etc. And so networking is super important because people buy from who they know, like, and trust. And it has been proven throughout the ages. If they don't know you, I mean, there's some brands that can do well with a behind-the-scenes approach, but your personality shines through. I've had client referrals simply because someone had a very good experience with us before. They said, oh yeah, Shanoy is a good person that we have worked with. She knows the ground in Jamaica, etc., etc. And like that, referrals have come. Another thing I do from a networking perspective is that I did my master's in the UK, and because it was culture and development, it was the perfect spot to network. Like, my class had people from all over the world, essentially.
Yes.
And it created such a very rich environment. And so I try to stay in touch with persons as well. And networking, sometimes we may think of it as turning up at a cocktail event and mingling and stuff. Sometimes networking is finding out the things that are of interest to the people that you're trying to reach. And you put yourself within those spaces. There are days where the Domerette may be having a cocktail event, or the US Embassy may be having a cocktail event, or the EU, and I may not want to go, but I know that the persons that I'm trying to reach, they're at these events, and if it's even for me to go and say hi and there's a familiar face, this matters to your audience, it matters to your clients to see that you are in the spaces where they're existing as well. So networking is everything. And as I said, sometimes the smaller things. I remember I traveled to Barcelona, and a client of mine was based in Spain. And once I got back, and I said, oh, I was in Barcelona recently, and they were asking about it. And 30 minutes out of a 1-hour meeting was spent catching up on all the things I did in Barcelona. That builds connection. That helps people to still like you enough to do business with you.
Because you're top of mind.
You're top of mind. And whether or not people believe it, your personality is a huge part of the selling point when you're going into business.
You're Caribbean, so you're not just Jamaican. Yes, you're Jamaican based. But you've been able to spread your wings across the region and into the diaspora and internationally. We've always spoken about the diaspora and how important the diaspora is. Not just the Jamaican diaspora, but the entire Caribbean diaspora. How important is that diaspora for us as a region, us as Jamaican? Are we really using the power?
Well, if we really look back at, in terms of, you were to break down the income in Jamaica and lots of the import income, you will still see that foreign exchange and remittances still ranks very high. It may have changed the way it is being sent. Maybe it's not Western Union, maybe it's people directly deposit into their accounts, but the diaspora is still connected. And I remember when I went to university overseas and I spoke about planning to go back home to Jamaica, there were people who looked at me like, that's not their plan. Their intention is to fully come and leave And I say the difference is even if a Jamaican leaves, there's a part of them that wants to go home at some point. And that connection is important because those are the people who they may have entire lives, they have homes, they have businesses overseas. But if you're able to reach them at the highest peak and at the best point, they are willing to invest back in Jamaica once they know that they have a reliable source. I said earlier that I've had people reach out, and I will now say that since I've put out that our services across the Caribbean, the only thing left for me to is to start to build houses for people, because they will call and they'll say, oh, they have had challenges doing this sort of thing. They know it's not something we do, but if it's something that we can get done for them. And so it is super important for us to tap into this. What we are recognizing, and maybe in the real estate market you may see it, a lot of the houses being bought, they are Jamaicans in the diaspora who do now have a little bit of, you know, excess cash, and so they want to invest back home because it's their retirement plan to come back to Jamaica. And so if we look beyond just the real estate part, there are also businesses. I went to the recent Diaspora conference, and that was one major thing in terms of how can we continuously connect the diaspora market with the businesses that are here from an investment standpoint and from a marketing standpoint. And that's the gap I'm still trying to work with to fill out more, to say, okay, I've been saying for a long time for Caribbean businesses, take your business region-wide. There are many businesses here in Jamaica now that would do a fantastic job if they expanded into other Caribbean markets. Similarly, there are businesses here in Jamaica that would do very well in diaspora market. And it don't have to be anything major. You know, there's a thing, we tend to overthink things. And in Hinesville, you know, Atlanta in Georgia is more of a place where Jamaicans are, but Hinesville is a little bit more remote. And there's a young lady I know, and she just set up a shop, and she sells everything from Jamaica, Vicks, crackers, Vicks. You can get Vicks from her, and she's doing extremely well. Yes. So, you know, the opportunities are there. And with her, it's about connecting to someone in Jamaica who can ensure she gets a steady stream of her products shipped to her. So it's about the reliability, the trust factor, and looking at the opportunities. And in that way, the diaspora market is super important in helping Jamaican businesses to grow as well, and also in terms of helping their own businesses to grow if they're seeking to get products and services from Jamaica.
As I see them giving me the wrap-up signal, Shanoy, and we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg. But as I see them giving me the wrap-up signal, what are the things that you think, if you were to say to businesses in Jamaica and across the region, these are the key areas of focus for your growth and expansion? What would be those?
One I will say off the very top of my head is cultural understanding. I have been fortunate to work with organizations that are implementing things across 5-6 different Caribbean countries. And my biggest thing has been, you can't do a wholesale strategy. What works in Jamaica may not work in Trinidad, may not work in Barbados. So it's about understanding the different cultural nuances and ensuring that you're connecting with those persons. That's a big one. Of course, I'm going to say marketing.
Of course.
Right? So to tag along to the cultural differences, it's about marketing. And that's everything from really knowing who your audience is. I think persons have heard this said a lot of time, but if we really think about it, we can be so much more strategic when we know exactly who we're selling to. Some of the times we're casting our net too wide when we should have a narrower casting, and sometimes we're casting our net too narrow when we should have a wider casting. So that I would say. And 3 is the technologies and the research that comes around that. You know, I think for a long time we have been consumers of technology, but there are also opportunities for more and more Jamaicans to be producers of technology. I go to international conferences sometimes, and sadly, you don't see that many people presenting from the Caribbean, but these are very unique think pieces and point of views that we can also be exporting to the world. So I think that trio of the cultural nuances and understanding that, ensuring that you're marketing to the right persons, and 3, ensuring that you are up to date on the different technologies that are out there, not just as a consumer, but also the possibilities as a creator, are things that can take us further.
Absolutely great. Shanoy, we needed to have spent more time in this discussion.
It's true.
But thank you for coming and chatting with us about marketing and communications and development marketing and just opportunities across the region. Shanoy Coombs, she's CEO and founder That's what I say, but she says she's head cook and bottle washer. Now you know she's Jamaican of integrated marketing communications, IMC. Of course, as we always say here on Let's Talk Stocks, we give you information to make better financial decisions. Come back with us. Tomorrow morning at 9, another insightful program lined up for you.